afternoon, everybody. Frank Macaluso here from Garageaholic. We have a lot to do today. We have a lot of updates for the N54 engine. We got to do the transmission output shaft. We got to do some shifter stuff. We got to do the guibo. We got to do the belts, the oil pan, and we are just about getting started here. So, hey, stay tuned. This is going to be a long one. I hope you find it entertaining. And then we're really going to start getting into the good stuff as we go into engine bay painting in the next few videos, as well as engine reinstallation and final assembly. So stay tuned. All right, let's be reminded about the torque on all the exhaust manifold bolts. That is 14.75 foot-pounds. I'm just going to round up to 15 for good measure, and I am going to torque them all right now. All right, so let me explain a little something here. What I'm doing here is I'm putting the charge air tube on here. I'm trying to fit it up. I'm trying to fit it up because there's a location right here that is going to hit the frame rail of the E36, and I need to widen that small section of the subframe, the frame of the E36, so that this will clear. I figured that would be the lesser of two evils, as opposed to having to cut, modify an aluminum and weld, TIG weld, an aluminum pipe. So I wanted to just measure from here to see how far I have to go and where specifically I have to go on the E36. So let's do that real quick. All right, so this guy's kind of just sitting in place right now, right? This charge air pipe. And it curves around and it comes up. I'm not really too worried about the up or even where it meets and collects and then goes down, because I've already got that taken care of. There really is no change that's needed to this. The change is right here. The frame rail needs to be widened or etched out just a tiny bit, about 2.5 to 3 inches behind where the engine mounts. And I know where the engine mounts because I have the subframe and I have the mount. So I'm going to estimate a chunk of subframe that I need to take out and weld in a patch so that it makes room for this. This is the only piece I really need to make modifications for on the car in order to make it fit. So let's take a look at that. So I kind of mocked up here. This is the mount, right? That's the location of the bracket. And I mocked up where I'm going to cut out. I'm just going to kind of just cut this out right there. And then I'm just going to create like a little indented version of that where the charge air pipe is just going to kind of sit right in that location. I'm also bringing it in a little bit more forward, because as you bring an engine in, you bring it basically in and then you level it off. So I wanted to give myself a little bit of more forward room in order to hit that. So let's talk about the engine bay. Now what I want to do is I want to install the oil pan. Now the oil pan requires new bolts every time you use them, because they're aluminum bolts and it requires a very specific torque for those bolts. So we're going to install that. I know that the engine's hanging and a time lapse is going to look a little weird as it's shaking, but you know, as it stands right now, it's the easiest way to do it. So I'm just going to keep it going just like that. So let's put the oil pan on finally, torque everything down with a new oil pan gasket, and let's get this done. New oil pan gasket, and we have our oil pan that we just removed. Just still need to clean all the edges up. All right, so now we're going to reinstall the oil pan. We have all of the brand new aluminum bolts. They need to be replaced when you remove them because of the torque that's applied to them and the stretch that's applied to those, kind of like head bolts on a head for head gasket changes. So these small ones here are shorter. They are 8 Newton meters or 6 foot-pounds. Or 72 inch-pounds with an extra 90 degrees after you're done torquing it to that level. These longer ones are very similar. These longer ones are 8 Newton meters, or 6 foot-pounds, or 72 inch-pounds, and you torque those to an extra 180 degrees, or a full half turn. So let's get these all on and torqued. I'll do a quick time lapse of that so you can see exactly what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. I'm not using any type of like a star pattern or bolt pattern, although I don't know if it's recommended, but I don't think it's life or death if you easily get them all on and then torque them all consecutively. So that's going to be my plan. Okay, so let's talk about torque really quick. What do they mean by torque value plus 90, torque value plus 180? But that means that when you hit your torque value on the torque wrench, you then turn an additional 90 degrees or quarter turn, or 180 degrees, or a half turn. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do this really quick, an example on one, and we're going to use this guy as an example, and you're gonna see here, feel it clicking? That means we've hit our torque value. So now what we want to do is we want to torque another 90 degrees on top of that. So this guy is going to end up going sideways like this. So I'm just going to brace this here, and then I'm just going to, just like that. All right? So from here, back to here, 90 degrees, that's how you torque it on top of your torque value. Typically aluminum bolts or head bolts are subjected to this. So, okay, now that the oil pan has been completed and torqued and tightened, now it's time to get the rest of the front of the engine assembled, fixed, and cleaned. So here we are with our power steering pump. We're going to slap that on the oil pan because it mounts strictly to the oil pan, which is why we had to take it off in order to remove the oil pan earlier. Then we're going to do the timing, not the timing. We're going to do the idler pulleys, which are basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 4, I guess, right? So these are those guys that we're going to be replacing, and we're going to be replacing the belt. And then we can start doing a little bit of cleaning while we're in there because the pulleys are all out, so it'd be easier to clean. And then we can install the air shrouds and then move on from there. All right, that just about does it for the cleaning. Yeah, I just wanted to tidy it up a little bit. No information really on the details, just wanted to clean it up, get all the gunk off of it. I replaced the oil pan gasket, which is what I think was the source of the leak, although there's some leaks up above, but we'll just end up fixing those on a fix-on-fail basis. This is an N54 swap video series, not a how to restore your N54 engine series. So here we are, moving on. I'm just gonna rebuild and reinstall all the pulleys and the belt and power steering pump, and we can move on with the next. Okay, so for a little bit there I was struggling trying to get the belt on. And I was doing some research online, and it said that the bottom belt should go underneath and across and then to the crank. But you know, there's a pin in here on the tensioner that basically already presets the load so that it allows you to just slip the belt on, which is exactly what I tried to do, but it was way short. And I looked it up, and I have the right belt, I have the right size, I compared it with the old belt. But what I found was that if you loop it up and over this idler pulley and then back down, it really gives you that perfect amount of tension before you do this. So you basically let this go, take that out, take that guy out, and now you got the perfect tension on the belt. So all of this is cleaned up, ready to go. And we can now install the air intake. And then finally, that's my kid. And then finally the transmission output flange, and we're done. Okay, this is the engine that just keeps on giving. Whenever we think we're done installing stuff, there's more, and here's the charge air pipe. We got two O-rings here that need to be replaced as part of that ECS kit. So we need to replace them right now, and we'll fit these on. Remember, we're going to modify and notch the E36 frame rails. So, so this thing should fit without a problem after it's notched. So when we do our first install, there should be no interference. Okay, so here's the motor. We're just about ready here. I have not put the exhaust manifolds on. I will put that on right before I install the engine. So the charge air pipe is on. All the cooling lines have been reinstalled. The AC line here is on. The charge air, actually this is not charge air, this is air intake, has been on. And it's really weird, like, a little zoom in. This pipe right here, on the inlet to the turbo, has a habit of popping off. So you really got to make sure that those are popped on really well. Not necessarily the front. The front is pretty secure, but the back is a lot more problematic. The back here actually has a habit of really popping off. It kind of rotates about these two bolts because there's nothing else holding it. So, I mean, look at it. It just kind of, there it is. Just popped right off, right? Just popped off and is hanging there now. And I think that that's a problem on these N54s. I did a little bit of research. So, yeah, not good. But that's something we need to be aware of when we reinstall this engine. So I'm not going to be doing the rest of the intake. Okay, we needed to swap the input flange from the E92 335i rear-wheel drive to a more palatable output flange that matches the same guibo size as that of the E36 M30 automatic drive shaft. So what I found was the E46 M30 output flange from a ZF transmission. This is a ZF transmission. Very important to note because the Getrags do have a different output shaft design that will definitely not work. So, what was I looking for in a output shaft? Well, this was the old one, and this is the way it looked. This is the new one. This is the way it looked. So, obviously, my first priorities are going to be spline count. This is a 30 count spline. Well, I believe it's like by 1 1/4 inches. That needed to work to hit to match the input shaft. And obviously the tri-hole side, this is, I believe, 109 millimeters on real OEM, and this is 96. Basically, this is the larger size, this is the smaller size. But there's an even smaller size that we should be concerned with anyway, but this fits the bill there. And the third thing is that there is a seal on the inside of this transmission that the back side of the original E92 mated with. And it's a machine surface, lathe machine surface, and it makes a seal so that, you know, obviously the oil doesn't come out. So I was looking for that too. And I see it here in the E46 M3. Perfect seal. It's got this dust cover, which is going to work out really well as well. And I know that this thing has previously sealed on the old ZF that it was installed on because there's a line there that kind of dictates that, that there was a seal that it was spinning around the entire time. Similarly with this one. And you put these two on a table together and you'll see that the line, I don't know if you can see it, but the line here, and there's a line right in here, and that matches the height. So I know this is going to be a near perfect fit. So let's install that and see how it looks. Alright, so what I found was that the 41 millimeter socket that I bought is, I don't even have it. It's too large to fit into this opening, so I'll never be able to get it tightened with that socket, so I needed to use a different nut. And I found one from an E46 rear axle. This is a 12 point. It's I believe it's a 32 millimeter, and it fits right inside there. So I'm going to thread this on right now. Much better. perfect. Spins freely. Okay, while we're at it, why don't we take care of this shifter as well. So what we need to do is we need to pry off this guy, and then we need to punch out the hole here. There's a little pin here. We gotta remove that pin. It comes out very easily, and then this thing should just pop out, okay? So before we replace it, let's see if we can try cleaning it a little bit. Shift into neutral there. We'll reuse this pin. This is a replaceable item, but it's not necessary. This pin looks pretty sharp, pretty good. I don't recommend replacing it, but we do have a new part here, which is important to replace. And we clean this up. There we go. So this is pretty easy, right? All you gotta do is push it in, and then you push the pin. Don't push it that hard, just push it. Oop, I just shifted into gear. Just push it just hard enough to get the pin to line up. And then you slide the pin right in. Let's put it this way. Tap it in with a hammer. And then this guy just go. That's it. Now it's done. We're in good shape. We also have new rubber gaskets here for the shifter carrier, and we have new circlips for the shifter lever selector arm. So that's all going to be installed later. And we also have a new guibo, which we can install that now. Let's do that now, shall we? All right. So to install the guibo or flex disc, you have to be very careful of the arrows that are on this. If you can see here, there are arrows right here, and it's pointing in that direction, meaning that the mounting face of that specific item needs to be pointed against it. So let's turn this around here, right? And we see, you should be able to see an arrow pointing in this direction, okay? And you'll see on the opposite one, there's an arrow pointed in the opposite direction. Well, this means that I want you to mount the guibo in against that face. Okay, that is basically what it's saying. So, let's do it. So everybody needs to go to the opposite. Now, one more time. Show mine. Show that. Yummy. All right, all done. All right, guys, that just about does it for us here today, and we have gotten a lot done today. We are getting very, very close to doing engine bay modifications and engine bay painting. So there's a lot of good stuff coming up over the next week or two. So, hey, thanks for joining in. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for liking. Thanks for watching. Hey, comment, like, and subscribe. I love to hear more new comments from new people that come on and have questions. I'm on a lot of the BMW forums as well, so if you want to see some pictures, you can see some pictures that I take on the forums. So thanks a lot for joining in, guys. Have a great day, and we'll talk in the next couple of days. Later.